Stopping by here at the CMN is David Carollo. Welcome, David.
Doug,
and you're tied into what organization?
I am the executive director of the World Apostolate of Fatima, USA.
People used to know as the Blue Army.
Blue Army, exactly.
Right,
That
okay.
was our
And you're actually located in New Jersey,
We are.
aren't you?
We're about 30 minutes from here in Washington, in Warren County. We have
Okay.
our beautiful shrine up there, our
Right.
138
We invite people to come and visit it, right?
We have huge days, and yes, please, our shrine is open year-round, but particularly in the summer.
Okay, great. Now this book, A Pathway Under the Gaze of Mary, Biography of Sister Maria Lucia of Jesus and the Immaculate Heart. Now this is the actual seer, right?
Yes.
The visionary from
Yes.
Fatima. And this book was put together by her sisters?
Yeah. Sister Lucia lived the 57 years in the Carmelite convent in Coimbra, which is about 30, 40 minutes north of Fatima.
Mm-hmm.
And this was her life after the apparitions, particularly. Certainly the book begins with her childhood, the period of the apparitions. But the meat of the book, how it compares with others, is how it goes on. How did she live the message of Fatima?
I see.
That's the key to this book, the
Okay.
difference between this and many other books.
So, though you have an explanation, and I know kind of goes through her childhood and things like that, but it continues on through the life that she lived out
Exactly.
in faith
Exactly.
to the messages herself.
Exactly.
Exactly. And we're coming in, and you're also talking about 2016.
Correct.
In 2016, you basically got the anniversary of the first apparition, which was the Angel of Portugal,
The Angel
right?
of Peace. It's 3
Yeah.
apparitions in,
Okay.
in 1916. Yes.
Which you have here based in chapter 2, the apparitions of the angel. I wanted to talk a little bit about that because
Certainly.
people probably know least about
Certainly, you're
those
right about
than
that.
they did. But also in the childhood of Lucia, on the third part of chapter 1 talks about some mischief
Yes.
for her. And I guess it's another case of trying to show that, these were real people, right?
These are normal people
Little kids.
in most every way, yes.
Exactly.
Right.
And some of the pictures in here are outstanding. I mean, some of them, I'm assuming, have never been seen before.
Now, many of
haven't
these
been
were in
published, right?
archives, and they really weren't published. So that and many of the notes that went into the writing of the book came from her very notes that the sisters took after her death and put together the biography, first in Portuguese.
Now, this was first done in Portuguese, and you talk about here at the beginning, we're pleased to bring the English edition. The story of Fatima told many times. The accounts of Sister Lucia have been written that we have to understand the request of a lady come from heaven. She lived 88 more years, more of that in a Carmelite convent in Coimbra, as you indicated. Because it must have been tough for her too. And I think, here's Jacinta and Francisco, basically the people she's the closest to,
Right.
who've had this amazing experience together, and
Certainly.
they're taken away.
Exactly.
And it's really for her to go on.
That's right.
And you say here, there's always controversy that follows Marian apparitions, and Fatima's had its share. Sister Lucia grew tired of trying to correct false statements and rumors, pleading instead to do just what Our Lady asked.
Exactly.
And also and this is the strong underlying message you're saying here, make of everything you can a sacrifice and offer it to God as an act of reparation for the sins by which He is offended.
That's correct.
And I'm not sure, are we doing a good job of doing it? It seems like with the way things are going on right now, I don't think we're quite responding.
I don't think so. Look at the predictions and look what happened. Look at the 20th century. I mean, the 20th century, the history is, it speaks for itself. But, had we followed that, had we followed this prescription that we were given in 1917, perhaps World War II wouldn't have happened. Perhaps Russia would not have spread her errors. Perhaps
Right.
there would never have been a Cold War. We don't know, but
Right.
I believe that's the case.
Right.
And it's-
And you talk about here, although she focuses on Francisco and Jacinta in her own writings, we discern the greatness of her soul as an apostle among people, her determination to seek the truth, her fidelity to God and to His Holy Mother. And it says here, you're talking about unconditional fidelity to the church and commitment to the salvation of lost humanity. That's really what her whole life was
obedience
about,
to the church.
right?
She spoke of that, and to this day, even to this day, of course, but I mean through this book and all, because that is the key to it. Our Lady said to her, when she said that Jacinta and Francisco would go to heaven soon, and she would remain a while longer to make me known and loved. Well, that was 88 years. She envisioned herself, because told her she wanted her to learn to read and write. She envisioned herself becoming an academic, quite frankly. She thought, because then she could disseminate the message. but she realized that later she was destined to be in a convent. And through the direction of the Bishop of Fatima, who kind of took her under his wing after a while.
She actually was in another convent originally.
She was first in it with the Dorotheans and then moved into with the Carmelites. But she always had this great desire to be a Carmelite. Eventually, she was able to go to the Carmel. But she always felt that she was to learn and be well educated so that she can disseminate the message.
Right.
But our Lord told her himself that the church will do that.
Right.
You need to read and write to be able to give this to the right people. And that was a difficulty for her. That was part of the humility, part of the suffering she went through, that she could never, and when she saw the frustration she saw when things weren't being done necessarily, she was extremely frustrated by that at several points in her life. And this points us out.
Right, and in the book you also get a sense of what you've seen many times in other, like with Bernadette or whatever.
Right.
You've got, she's a little bit of an oddity because people aren't sure what to make of her.
Right.
So you get people who maybe have an affinity for her. On the other side, you have people who might be jealous.
Without question.
Or think, well, why would you? Maybe you think you're special.
Right.
And things like that.
Well, for this very reason, when she first went into the convent the first time, the bishop told her, you are to go under another name. She had taken an assumed name and they didn't know who she was. Right. Now people in time figured out who she was to a great degree, and some people, especially some outsiders who knew she was there. But her classmates, her friends really didn't know who she was. They were always there was a little mystery around her at all times.
Now in the introduction here, you start off here with, I'm here for the 7th time. Go follow the path the bishop wants you to take. This is the will of God. Yes, I will do what I promised. That's Our Lady's message to her. And later on here it says, it was a life of love with Mary. When her path became overwhelming from answering the numerous questions of many people, she would courteously reply, it is all because of Our Lady. And Our Lady would say to all who listen, everything is for the sake of Jesus.
Exactly.
And again, to keep the focus on our Lord.
Keep the focus on our Lord. At the very first apparition, Our Lady asked the children, are you willing to offer your lives in supplication, in reparation for sin? Will you do that? And her entire life she did it. She kept accepting this on and on and on. And you referred to the 7th apparition, which people don't talk about. That was an apparition just to her privately, where Our Lady reassured her, because she didn't have Jacinta and Francisco to help her really anymore, and she was going to have to carry this on, to carry this mission on. And I think this kind of solidified it, that and the direction of the bishop in those first years.
Here we are, 2016. Let's talk about the first apparition, the Angel of Peace, which people know less about. And I have a connection to this. At noon, they ate their lunch after praying an abbreviated version of the Rosary, which in our family we call the shortcut Rosary.
There you go. Hail Mary, Hail Mary.
Hail Mary, Hail Mary, Hail Mary. They say they were always told to pray, and they had to obey, but they liked playing very much, so they solved the problem. 3 sat down, and Francisco, being the leader, counted the beads, saying, Our Father, Hail Mary, Hail Mary. They could get through it a little quicker.
A little quicker, right.
And they talk about this apparition, but on the day their lives were changed, Lucia tells it this way. She says, it was a young man, about 14 or 15 years old, whiter than snow, transparent as crystal when the sun shines through it, and of great beauty. On reaching us, he said, do not be afraid, I'm the angel of peace, pray with me.
That's right.
My God, I believe, there's the prayer that a lot of people know, probably in my house. My God, I believe, I adore, I hope, and I love you. I ask pardon of you for those who do not believe, do not adore, do not hope, and do not love you. And that's the prayer that the angel taught.
And that is the mission statement for all of us who do this work, promoting the message of Fatima. Teach people to adore God and make reparation for those who don't. And that's really the essence of the Fatima message.
Right. And also, poor old Francisco, he didn't hear the angel either, right?
No.
He had a lot of trouble hearing.
He did.
He had a hearing problem, apparently. He had to say a lot of rosaries, I think. That was what the point was.
Told, yes.
And so then the angel showed up for the second time a few months later, and he said to them, what are you doing? Pray, pray very much. The most holy hearts of Jesus and Mary have designs of mercy on you. Offer prayers and sacrifices to the Most High. Make of everything you can a sacrifice and offer it to God as an act of reparation for this. And again, we hear that as being the major theme.
Right.
He goes on to say, I'm the guardian angel, the angel of Portugal. Above all, accept and bear with submission the suffering which the Lord will send you.
Exactly.
Now, how old were the children at the time when they were being told this?
Oh, Sister Lucia was 10 and 9 and 8. So they were young children. She was the leader, of course, and of her two cousins.
Right. Now, she was a particularly good student, though. She had already, for catechism and things like that.
Because
So-
her mother was. Her mother was the teacher. I mean, a teacher as defined in the community. She was known as a person of knowledge who did teach catechism and such. And Lucia was taught at a young age for herself and to start preparing. She was already taking care of children in homes and this type of thing. So she was a little more advanced than we think of that at that age.
Right. Then the third apparition of the Angel of Portugal. This is the image sometimes, the famous Father Fox cartoon I remember too.
Yes.
It's the angel holding in his hand a chalice with a host suspended above it, from which a few drops of blood fell. The angel did not say anything, but leaving the chalice with the host suspended in the air, the angel knelt down, and beside them, with a face on the ground, the shepherds followed just in time, prayed a prayer much longer than the first. And that's where you see the whole connection with our Lord.
Right.
And
Eucharistic
communion.
adoration.
Right, Eucharistic adoration, right?
Right.
And of course, as we mentioned earlier, from this common experience, the three could not be separated.
That's
So
right.
it really was the beginning of them really coalescing together. And that it talks here about Lucia had a magnetism that drew her cousins to her.
Yes, yeah, very much so, very much so. But she always had great pain once her two cousins were gone, because she could never totally relate. Her own mother really did not believe. She didn't believe the apparitions, and really until even beyond the miracle of the sun and years later, mother still had doubts.
Right.
She never had her mother's total confidence, and that hurt her. And she says this in the book, how this was one of the biggest pains in her heart, that she couldn't, that she lost her confidence in Jacinta and Francisco. Now, of course, Our Lady did console her in many ways, but it was always a difficulty for her.
Right. And that leads us up to the first apparition on May 13th. But it's interesting too, because you also mentioned here in the book, the visits of the angels did not change the children's demeanor in the eyes of the family.
Right.
No one realized anything, but everything changed on May 13th. So actually, even the initial apparitions from the angel was not something the children talked about. They kept that private.
Right.
And the fact is, nobody at that time saw any particular difference in them.
Right, exactly. They were being formed spiritually. That was the essence of what the apparitions of the angel were all about. They were being prepared for the next year. They were being prepared for the apparitions of Our Lady.
When Our Lady was to come.
Exactly, like a novitiate in anything. You have a period of preparation and where you're trained and you're formed. This is what was happening to them. They were being formed to be. So when Our Lady did appear to them, yes, they were three innocent children, certainly in the eyes of the world, and in reality they still were. But they were spiritually advanced. They were very advanced spiritually by then. So when she appeared to them, they understood. Maybe not with an intellectual understanding that we would maybe define, but they understood right away.
And by then, even though it was difficult later, it probably would have been extremely difficult if they had first said, well, we saw this angel show up to us. And,
exactly.
Maybe you three shouldn't hang out together anymore. Or something
Right,
like that,
right. Exactly.
So what's your hope? And what is the World of Possible and Fatima's hope for this book?
It's our mission.
Who love Our Lady.
Exactly. Well, Fatima is a prescription for life. Okay. Fatima is not about devotions necessarily. It's not about predictions necessarily. They were given. Okay. Many of these things were given as warnings, and also to show the credibility of what the messages were. But the essence is a prescription for life. And this book points out how this person lived that prescription, how Sister Lucia, who is very much a normal person, it may seem different, she's a celebrity. No, she wasn't. She was a young girl who had the same needs and desires of anybody else, but how she accepted what she was asked to do, and through those 88 years beyond, lived that life to its fullest.
Well, thank you so much, David, for stopping by. A Pathway Under the Gaze of Mary is the title.
Wonderful. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Stopping by is Father Chris Alar. Father,
Thank you, Doug.
from the MICs.
Yes.
And it's great to have you here. And of course, we always think of Divine Mercy, and there's a Journey to Mercy. It's a little, your guide to the extraordinary Jubilee Year of Mercy. So the Marian Fathers have really tapped into the whole idea of the Year of Mercy. Were you aware at all that the Holy Father was going to do anything like this?
Well, it was a beautiful surprise for our community, because the Marians have been promoting Divine Mercy since 1941. We've been entrusted with this message and devotion, and it's a beautiful way for us to continue the work that we're already doing. And a lot of times people ask, well, what is the significance of this Jubilee year?
Right.
And it's significant for several reasons. It's significant because of what it is. What it is every Jubilee year is a special year of grace and forgiveness that the Holy Father issues that gives us a chance for a universal pardon, complete forgiveness of sin and punishment. But how he does that is he points to the extraordinary grace that we receive in God, as we do always, but especially in these years, to help us with our forgiveness, not only for receiving, but giving forgiveness, for conversion of heart, and most of all, reconciliation back to God through confession, which is so, so important. But not only what it is, but when it is. A Jubilee year is not every year. It's normally every 25
about
years.
25 years.
Yeah. And
now, what was the year 2000?
Was the last Jubilee
John
year.
Paul II, right?
Yep, and that was an important Jubilee year. But what's interesting is in the history of the church, which really since 1300 began these Jubilee years, there's only been 26 Jubilee years in the history of the church. But of that, there's been 4, or this is the 4th, extraordinary Jubilee year.
And what's the difference?
And the difference is that, for instance, our last extraordinary Jubilee year was to mark the 1950th anniversary of the resurrection. So it was 1983.
That was a major event.
It was. So what it is it goes to even the heart. Even though we've had 30 total, this is the 30th, only 4 have been extraordinary Jubilee years. And so when people ask, well, what's significant about an extraordinary Jubilee year, is number one, the timing, but also the significance. In other words, our Holy Father is putting this on par with the resurrection. And the beautiful part of mercy is that's what the resurrection is about. And on Easter Sunday, we have the resurrection, but Divine Mercy Sunday, being 8 days later, part of that octave, shows that it's a continuum. It's connected, absolutely. So this is what our Holy Father is offering to us.
Now, let me ask you, obviously you got to hear on this one, we've got Sister Faustina and the image of Divine Mercy. Many people obviously played the chaplet on EWTN and followed it for many, many years. Stockbridge, we always have the event coming from there. What way are the Marian helpers going to be participating in this?
Yeah.
So, and how does this little booklet fit into some of your plans?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, we want to continue doing what we've been doing since 1941, and that is bringing the message of mercy to the people, to the laity, and to clergy as well, to the whole church. To continue what we've been doing includes things like continuing work through our Association of Marian Helpers. We're over 1.5 million members that bring the message of mercy to the world. Well, predominantly we have a Marian Helper Center throughout. We have several in different countries. Our work is predominantly United States, Canada.
Right, okay.
But what's beautiful about it is we're going to continue more than ever our work of evangelizing through the written word or the printed word through our printing press, Marian Press, but also now much more through the electronic word, through emails, through whatnot. And of course, continuing our work with the normal visits of our pilgrims, confessions, Divine Mercy Sunday, things like that. But specifically to this year, Doug, what we're going to do is we're first going to bring St. Faustina even more to the forefront.
Okay.
We're going to lead a petition drive, as we did back years ago for Divine Mercy Sunday, where we sent over 3 million signatures to the Vatican to show the desire of the people, which is the #1 indication of a saint, of the impact that saint had on them. We're going to send these petitions as we did for Divine Mercy Sunday, which they used to help promote Divine Mercy Sunday.
Sure.
And we're going to lead this petition through our media outlets to ask those, your viewers included, if they would be moved to perhaps sign a petition to make St. Faustina the next doctor of the church. And we know this from the significance, as you know, the church defines a doctor as somebody whose writing and spirituality affects for the positive the entire church. The other big thing that we are doing is we are going to be mailing to every priest in the United States, no cost to them of course, a homiletics package and resources that they could use in their homilies to have talking points on the Year of Mercy, with which many of these are summarized in our guidebook. This guidebook on the Year of Mercy is such an important little thing because what it is, people love little summaries. And although we have other major books that we're promoting this time of year, this is a guidebook that somebody says, look, I don't have time to read a 400-page book. I've got a family, a spouse. This guidebook can help the clergy and our laity to understand what the Jubilee Year of Mercy is about. So we are also going to reach out to our priests, send them these homiletic packages with talking points on mercy and what mercy is all about. And then finally, the other way that we're going to reach the people through different things is through increased ways in our offerings of our products. Several new books, several new pamphlets, flyers on the Year of Mercy as well.
To support the whole Year of Mercy. Let me ask you, when you're sending it out there, Father, to these parishes, do you find an increasing openness in the parishes to the whole divine aspect of Divine Mercy, to celebrating the Divine Mercy Sunday, which of course on the calendar,
right?
But it doesn't mean it has to be promoted or talked
Absolutely.
about. Are you seeing that changing?
This is a great question. In fact, we get this question all the time, and we like to say we kind of observe the rule of thirds. There's a third of the priests that say, no thank you, we already have enough devotions. A third of the priests say, absolutely, send me everything I can get. This is so critically important, because Jesus told St. Faustina that this is the most important message of our times, and to prepare the world for our second coming.
For the end time.
That this spark would come from Poland, and we believe the spark was JP2 in the message of Divine Mercy. But a third of the priests say, we're not sure what to make of this, and we don't know. We want to learn more. So it boils down to this. Is Divine Mercy optional, or is it obligatory? And actually the answer is both. Mm-hmm. While devotions in the Catholic Church, as you know from private revelation, have always been optional, the message of Divine Mercy is not optional. Our Holy Father said, if you reject the message of Divine Mercy, you reject the gospel. So what is the difference? In the devotion of Divine Mercy, we have our normal devotional aspects, the image, the novena, the chaplet, the Owl Prayer at the Hour of Mercy. Right, okay. Those are all part of the devotion. Even the feast. You can remember Finch, like the bird, the feast, the image, the novena, the chaplet, and the Hour of Mercy.
So you also got, what is it, ABC or Ask?
Well, that's the important part. You just hit it. In the ABCs, we have the message of Divine Mercy. And this part is not optional. This is A, ask for God's mercy. B, be merciful to others. And C, completely trust in God's mercy. So the beautiful part is we have the devotion and we have the message. Now somebody says, well, why mess with the devotion if it's optional? It's like any devotion, like the rosary. It leads you to a deeper living of the true faith. And so in the devotion, we understand what God's trying to teach us, and then it helps us to lead a deeper living of the message of Divine Mercy. The ABC, the ask for God's mercy, the be merciful, and completely trust in God's mercy.
Let me ask you, in the sense of the Holy Father's talking about a Jubilee year of mercy. And mercy, like you said, there's other aspects of mercy. Mercy just didn't show up with Divine Mercy. Yep. Do you know, and is it a fact that the Holy Father has Divine Mercy in mind with that?
Yes.
Has he had a strong devotion to Sister Faustina? We certainly know about JP2, but what about Pope Francis?
The beautiful part is all of our last three popes have shown have given us the importance of Divine Mercy, and not just mercy, because as we know, mercy in and of itself is a particular mode of love, that when love encounters suffering, it does something. John Paul II said it's love in action. That's how we can be merciful to others. But Divine Mercy, as mercy relates to God. So when God saw our suffering, which is what mercy is, he decided to do something about it. He sent his son. So yes, he had Divine Mercy in relation, or in mind, when he came forward with this. And in the Bull of Indinction, which he just issued on Divine Mercy Sunday, he specifically mentioned St. Faustina by name. And so this puts, for us in the world, kind of a stamp of approval on the fact that this saint is very important. She's the saint of our times. And he said, this is why I'm declaring the extraordinary Jubilee Year Mercy, because now is this time of mercy. And he said that, time of mercy, because Jesus said in the diary, where sin abounds, my mercy abounds even more. And there's been no other time, I think, in human history where we've seen sin to this level, to this magnitude. So we know God's grace is even here that much more. And what the Holy Father has done is link that and said, this is now the time of mercy. And so in this time of mercy, we have an environment that's conducive to healing, to conversion, and forgiveness. So he did have the Divine Mercy in mind when he declared this universal, or this extraordinary Jubilee year.
Now, one time recently you went by the name Father Joseph.
Yes.
Versus Father Chris.
Yeah,
Why?
It's a little confusing title. Our Association of Marian Helpers, traditionally, the title given to the director of the association is given by the name of Father Joseph, which was named after our provincial at the time when the message was brought to the United States through our Marian priests. And so I go by the title Father Joseph in our literature and our writings, and you'll read about that a little bit in the book, but Father Chris being the reference, my name, actual name, but the title of Father Joseph is very significant because that was the way that Divine Mercy, with his approval, got to the United States. And it's through the United States that it is really mushroomed into what Father Seraphim calls the fastest growing grassroots movement in the history of the Catholic Church. So what a significance that Father Joseph, our Father Joseph, played in that. And also, our priest by name who brought it to the United States is Father Joseph Jarzembowski, who escaped from Poland during World War II to bring it here, or just prior. It was actually, war was already going on in Europe, but prior to the United States being in it. And his name was Father Joseph. So it's a beautiful connection.
And we have our own Father Joseph at EWTN who just celebrated his 25th anniversary. And the first time I ever heard or saw anything about Divine Mercy was really on EWTN when Mother and her sisters were doing it. And there was a lot of that was brought by the late, great Father George Kasich.
I got to tell you, my vocation, the reason that I'm here sitting with you as a priest in a collar, was because of EWTN and the message of Divine Mercy. When I saw Divine Mercy Sunday, when I saw the Chaplet of Divine Mercy, I was brought to tears. And this was my conversion. So I give a great thanks to EWTN and their marketing of this important message, and they're bringing it to the people.
And thank you for all the work that you've all done with Father Kaz and of course Father Seraphim over the years, and yourself and Father Michael Gately as well. Thank you very much, Father Chris Alar, for stopping by here at EWTN talking about Journey to Mercy. Looks for a whole packet of information on the upcoming Jubilee Year of Mercy.